Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we are doing something a little... Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we are doing something a little different.
Yeah.
Usually we're looking at external trends, tech, markets, history. But today, we're turning the camera around.
Mm-hmm.
We're pointing it right at the person listening to this, specifically at the gap between that fancy title on your LinkedIn profile and the actual reality of who you are when you walk into the office on a Tuesday morning.
It is the ultimate reality check. And honestly, it's one that makes a lot of people very uncomfortable.
Oh, it made me uncomfortable just prepping for this. We're breaking down chapter 1 of James Oyola's book, The Helpful Leader.
Right.
It's called Understanding the Leader in You. And look, I'll be honest with you, when I first picked this up, I rolled my eyes a little. I thought, okay, another leadership book telling me to find my why or,
synergize my paradigms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is a fair reaction. The leadership section of the bookstore is full of fluff.
Right. But Oyola starts with a question that felt less like fluff and more like a punch in the gut. He basically asks, do you actually know who you are as a leader? Or are you just coasting on the fact that someone gave you a promotion 3 years ago?
It's the difference between occupation and identity.
Yeah.
And to make that stick, he uses this analogy right at the start that I think is brilliant.
Yeah.
Because it's so humiliatingly relatable. He compares leadership to owning a car.
Yeah. This part got me.
The analogy is this. Imagine you have the keys to a high-performance vehicle in your pocket. Maybe a Ferrari.
Okay.
Technically, you own it, you have the title, you can sit in the driver's seat and take a selfie. But that is fundamentally different from knowing how to drive a manual transmission around a hairpin turn without stalling out.
Or crashing into a guardrail.
Exactly. I feel seen.
Me too. I think a lot of us have the keys. We have the title of director or VP. But are we driving? Or are we just, grinding the gears?
That's exactly it. In the corporate world, the title is the keys. It gives you access. But the driving, the actual maneuvering of human beings and emotions and deadlines, that is a completely separate skill set.
Right.
And Oyola's main critique here is that we spend our entire careers trying to get shinier keys, better titles, without ever taking a driving lesson.
So, okay, let's say the listener is nodding along. They've got the title, but maybe they feel that imposter syndrome creeping in.
Yeah.
What is the first step Oyola lays out? Because usually these books say believe in yourself, but he goes in a different direction.
He goes the opposite direction. He says before you can lead anyone else, you have to pass the mirror test.
The mirror test.
And this isn't about looking in the mirror and saying daily affirmations. It's about hunting for blind spots.
Blind spots.
Yes. The core argument here is that most leaders have this massive gap between their intent and their impact.
Oh.
They know what they meant to do, but they have no clue how it actually landed with the team.
Okay, but play devil's advocate here. I know my intent. I know if I'm trying to be helpful or if I'm just having a bad day. Is the gap really that wide?
It's often wider than you think. Oyola gives this stinging example of the direct leader. You know this person.
Oh, absolutely. I've probably been this person. The I'm a straight shooter, I don't play politics type.
Exactly. I just tell it like it is. That is their internal narrative. They look in the mirror and see efficient, honest, no nonsense.
Right.
But if you ask their team, if you held up the mirror from their perspective, what do they see?
They see a jerk.
They see harsh. They see abrasive. They see someone who doesn't care about their feelings. So you have a leader who thinks they are optimizing communication, but in reality, they are shutting it down.
Because everyone is afraid to speak up.
Exactly. That's silence in the meeting room. That's not agreement. That's fear. Precisely. And that is a blind spot. But here's the one that I think is even more dangerous because it feels nicer. The cool dad manager. The buddy. This is the leader who prides themselves on being chill. I'm not a micromanager. My door is always open.
We're a family.
That one. Which sounds great. I mean, who doesn't want a chill boss?
Right.
Well, ask the employee who is trying to prioritize their workload. The chill manager thinks they are being supportive, but the team often perceives them as confusing.
Or absent.
Because if everything is chill, nothing is urgent.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. If you don't give clear direction because you don't want to be bossy, you aren't being nice. You're abdicating your job.
And the team is left just guessing.
Completely guessing what the priorities are. So while you feel like the cool boss, your team is actually drowning in anxiety because they don't know where the goalposts are.
That is a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of us pivot to chill because we're afraid of being the harsh one. We swing the pendulum too far.
And that's why the mirror test matters. You can't adjust your steering if you don't know you're drifting into the other lane.
But practically speaking, how do you actually do this? Because if I walk into my team meeting tomorrow and say, hey guys, am I a confusing leader? They aren't going to tell me the truth.
No way.
They have mortgages to pay. They're going to say, no, boss, you're great.
That is the million-dollar question. You cannot just ask for validation. Oyola suggests you have to look at the data of their behavior.
The data.
Yeah. When you speak, do people shut down? That's data. When you assign a project, do people constantly come back with clarifying questions that seem really basic? That's data that you might be the confusing one, not the empowering one.
So stop listening to what they tell you and start watching how they react to you.
Exactly. Watch the video, don't just listen to the audio, which actually leads perfectly into the second big concept of this chapter.
Authenticity.
Authenticity.
Oh boy, authenticity. If I had $1 for every LinkedIn post about bringing your authentic self to work, I could retire. It's become such a buzzword.
It has, and Oyola actually attacks that buzzword a bit. Or rather, he attacks how we use it. We tend to treat authenticity like a badge we can just put on. Like, I am declaring that I am an authentic leader.
Like declaring bankruptcy. You can't just say it and make it.
You can't just say it. Oyola's rule is authenticity is not self-proclaimed. It is a conclusion that other people come to about you.
Okay.
And they make that decision based on one thing. Just one. Consistency.
Does the audio match the video?
Does the audio match the video? And this brings us to my absolute favorite example in the book because it is so specific and so common. The midnight emailer.
I laughed out loud at this part, but then I stopped laughing because I realized.
I do this.
Okay, so set the scene for us. Who is the midnight emailer?
So this is the manager who is constantly preaching about work-life balance.
Right, always.
They stand up in the all-hands meeting and say, mental health is a priority, disconnect on the weekends, go home to your families. Burnout is the enemy.
Sounds like a great empathetic leader.
Yeah.
On paper.
Right. But then it's Tuesday night. It's 5 p.m. You're in bed. You check your phone one last time and ding.
An email from that same manager asking about the Q3 spreadsheets.
And in that 1 second, what happens to all those speeches about mental health?
They evaporate.
Gone. Because actions speak louder than words. The team sees the timestamp 11:45 p.m. and they realize the speech was just performance art. The reality is that the boss works at midnight, so I guess I should probably work at midnight too.
Okay, but hold on. I'm going to push back here.
Yeah.
Because I'm that boss sometimes. And usually my intent isn't to make people work. It's just,
right.
I put the kids to bed, I finally have a quiet moment, and I want to clear my inbox so I'm not stressed in the morning.
Right.
I'm not expecting them to reply. I'm just trying to survive my own schedule. Is that really so bad?
It's not bad intent, but remember the mirror test. It's about impact. Your intent is clearing my inbox. The impact on your junior employee is panic.
Because of the power dynamic?
Exactly. When the boss emails at midnight, it carries an implicit weight. Even if you write, no need to reply in the subject line, the signal you are sending is, I am thinking about work right now. And this is the pace at which I operate.
And if you want to be authentic, you have to align your behavior with your message.
That's the hard truth. If you want to be the leader who values balance, you actually have to use the schedule send button. You have to wait until 8 a.m. You have to inconvenience yourself slightly to protect the culture you say you're building. That is how you earn authenticity.
It's earned, not claimed. That's a really strong distinction.
It is. And once you lose that trust, once you become the hypocrite manager, it is incredibly hard to get people to listen to you about the work itself. Which brings us to the next layer, framing.
Right. Because eventually we have to stop talking about feelings and actually get work done. We have tasks, we have deadlines.
But Oyola argues that if you are just handing out task lists, you want a leader. You're a project manager.
So a leader frames the work.
A leader frames the work. He talks about storytelling here. And again, I feel like storytelling is another one of those corporate buzzwords.
Yeah, where people think they need to be Shakespeare or something.
Or they think it means telling a charming anecdote about their weekend to break the ice. That's not what this is. Framing is about connecting the what to the why.
The book uses this analogy of building a cathedral, which is a classic story. One guy says, I'm laying bricks. The other says, I'm building a cathedral.
It is a classic, but I think it actually falls flat for a lot of modern workers. Because let's be real, most of us aren't building cathedrals.
Right.
We are migrating databases. We are processing insurance claims. We are updating compliance manuals.
It's hard to feel like you're building a monument when you're just staring at Excel for 8 hours.
Exactly. So if a leader comes in and tries to hype up a data migration like it's the moon landing, the team smells the inauthenticity instantly. It feels manipulative.
So how do you frame boring work without being fake?
You find the real impact. Oyola suggests stripping away the grandeur and looking at the human cost. Let's take that database migration. It's boring, it's tedious, but why are we doing it?
Okay.
Maybe it's because the current system crashes every time a customer calls support.
So the support team is getting yelled at every day.
Right. So the frame isn't, we are building a data cathedral. The frame is, we are getting this done so that the customer support team, our friends on the third floor, stop getting abused by angry clients. We are fixing this to make their lives better.
That is compelling. I can rally behind helping my colleagues. I can't really rally behind data integrity.
Exactly. That is the 10-year perspective Oyola talks about. He asks readers who are, 10 years into their careers to look back. Which projects do you actually remember with pride? It's usually not the ones that made the most profit. It's the ones where you felt useful, where you understood the mission.
That's true. The late nights I remember fondly, and there are a few, were the ones where we felt like we were in the trenches together for a reason.
And providing that reason, that is the leader's job. If you just assign the task, you get compliance. If you frame the why, you get commitment.
Compliance versus commitment. I like that. But I want to pause here because we've talked about self-awareness, avoiding hypocrisy with the emails, framing the work. And I'm listening to this, and I'm maybe 10 or 15 years into my career. I might be feeling tired.
Tired? How so?
Yeah, like I should know this by now. There's this expectation that once you reach a certain level, director, VP, you should be a finished product. You shouldn't be struggling with how to talk to people.
The ready fallacy. This is how chapter 1 wraps up, and I think it's the most compassionate part of the text.
Break that down for me. What is the ready fallacy?
It's the belief that leadership is a destination, that there is some graduation day where you receive your scroll and suddenly you are wise and patient and you never say the wrong thing in a meeting again.
And Oyola says that day never comes.
Never. He insists that leadership is not a theory. It is a practice. It's something you do, not something you are. And it happens primarily in what he calls the messy moments.
I love this phrase, messy moments, because that's what the job actually feels like. It feels like a series of small fires.
And this is the critical mindset shift. Most of us view those fires, the conflicts, the mistakes, the misunderstandings, as distractions from our real work. We think, I could get so more done if I didn't have to deal with Dave and Sarah arguing about the project timeline.
I just want to do strategy. Why am I playing referee?
But Oyola is grabbing you by the shoulders and saying, playing referee is the strategy, that is the job.
Can we get specific on this? What does a messy moment look like where you can actually practice this?
Sure. Let's take a classic one. A massive mistake happens. Someone on your team drops the ball, and a client is furious.
The car has stalled in the middle of the intersection.
Exactly. The instinct is to panic. Or to find someone to blame so you don't look bad. Right. The title holder protects themselves. The leader uses it as a rep. This is a practice session. How do you handle it? Do you scream? Do you throw them under the bus? Or do you walk into the room and say, okay, this happened. Here is how we fix it. Here is what we learn. I've got your back.
That 5-minute conversation, that's the leadership.
That is the whole ball game. You can't read a book to prepare for that moment. You just have to be there in the mess and try to be helpful.
Yeah.
And the encouraging thing is you're going to screw it up sometime.
You're going to be the harsh leader sometimes by accident.
You are. You're going to send the midnight email by mistake.
Oh.
But because it's a practice, you get to come back the next day and try again.
You can apologize.
You can reset. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be intentional.
It takes the pressure off, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It means that being 10 years in doesn't mean you're old and stuck.
Yeah.
It just means you have more experience in the gym.
Exactly. You're just getting better at lifting the heavy weights.
So let's bring this deep dive in for a landing. We've covered a lot of ground. If we look at the dashboard of this car we're driving, what are the key gauges we need to be checking?
First gauge, the mirror. Remember, your title is just the keys. Leadership is the driving. Don't confuse the two.
And check your blind spots.
Yes. Don't rely on what you think you are. Look at how your team reacts to you.
Okay, second gauge, the check engine light, which is authenticity.
Definitely. If you're preaching balance but emailing at midnight, the light is flashing, the audio has to match the video.
Third, the GPS. That's your framing. Don't just tell people to drive. Tell them where they are going and why it matters.
Save the support team. Don't just migrate the data.
And finally, the road conditions. It's going to be messy.
It's going to be messy. And that's okay. The potholes, the traffic, the breakdowns, those aren't interruptions. Those are the practice field.
That is a really solid overview.
Yeah.
Before we go, I want to leave the listener with something to really stew on.
Oh.
We talked about the mirror test earlier, but I want to make it scarier.
Let's do it.
If you are listening to this and you're feeling confident, yeah, I'm a good leader, I'm helpful, I want you to imagine a scenario. Imagine we interviewed your team, the people you see every day, and we asked them to write a biography of your leadership style based only on your actions in the last 6 months.
No job descriptions allowed. No stated values allowed.
Right. Just what you did, how you reacted when the client yelled, how you handled the deadline. If you read that description, would you even recognize the person they're writing about?
And more importantly, if you did recognize them, would you actually like them?
That is the question. And hey, if the answer is no, the good news is tomorrow is another practice day.
Get back in the driver's seat and try again.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.